Hello and welcome back to Radical Disruption. I have an amazing guest with me on today's episode. Brittni Schroeder is a business coach and marketing strategist. She helps coaches automate their business, create systems, convert funnels, and scale to six figures and beyond. Brittni worked as a high school senior photographer for over 10 years. She also owned and operated Mozi Magazine up until 2017. Her work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Good Morning America, and several publications. She has also worked in the nonprofit sector for over 15 years and recently founded her own nonprofit called the Compassion Club. And she currently lives in Utah. And on top of all that, Brittni is a speaker at the Profit Maven Summit, so we both hope to see you in October. In this episode, we dive into automating funnels and talking about how to troubleshoot funnels that are not working, common mistakes to avoid, and so much more. Now let's dive into the episode. Hello, I am here with Brittni, and I am so excited. We're going to talk about funnels. But before we dive into talking about funnels, I have to ask you, what is your entrepreneur story? How did you get to where you are today?
Okay, I love this question. I love this story. Like Maya mentioned, my name is Brittni Schroeder, and I'm a business and marketing coach. And I feel like I've been an entrepreneur forever, even though it hasn't been forever. But I have always just had like little side hustles. And I think when I decided to be a mom is where I was like, I need something else. I need an identity other than just obviously a mom's like the most important job in my opinion, but I wanted something else. And it started, this ages me. So I could probably be your mom, Maya. I'm probably like that old, but it was right when blogging was starting to be a thing. And I'm looking at people's blogs and I'm like, oh my gosh, like the photography is so beautiful. Like I need to learn how to take pictures. And so I got myself a DSLR camera for Mother's Day. And I love to learn. If money wasn't an issue, I would be a full-time student. I just love to learn. So I was just a sponge and just wanted to learn everything about photography. And I was signing up for Photoshop classes and I was learning just all of the things. And I went to a workshop, a photography workshop. And that is when I decided, that I wanted to make it a business. I think people started asking. It's funny because I joke about it. And in the photography industry, it's like the joke where people say, oh, you take really good pictures. You must have a really nice camera. It was one of those things where people were asking me and it was starting to take a lot of my time. And I'm like, I need to do this as a business. I want to do this as a business. Then fast forward, that was at the beginning stages. And what was great is I was learning how to start a business and do it with my photography. And it was a blessing and a curse because right at the beginning, we were in Michigan, we moved to El Paso, Texas. And I was like, okay, I've learned all this stuff and I've made all these mistakes. I get to start like fresh. And so I started there, did my market research. I always say that the business part comes very naturally to me. And it was like the artistic side that I had to really like work on to develop. And I started this business in El Paso, Texas, did my market research. And then my business just took off. I remember people saying, there's no money, people won't pay you, other photographers. And I'm like, oh, I will find it. Because I knew how to market. Yeah. So I grew this business and I was very successful and I was making a lot of money. And then I also started during that time, I started a photography magazine. So I was the editor-in-chief of this magazine and it was great. It opened up so many doors for me as far as like opportunities because I was networking with photographers all over the world. And then during that time too, I've always been involved in nonprofit work for about 15 years and working with nonprofits. I was also working with a nonprofit. I was going to Haiti and it was my photography that actually took me there. And then in 2017, I started my own nonprofit. Around that same time, we were moving from El Paso to Houston, Texas. And I was like, I want a job. I was ready to pivot. I didn't want to start a location-based business over again. And it just made sense. I'm going to do business and marketing. I love it. I know this is so important. So many businesses struggle with this. And so I pivoted and that's where I am today. So I do business and marketing and I specialize a lot in like automation systems and funnels, building those up and teaching people. But that's where I'm at. Now I'm in Utah and I have 2 kids and that's me in a nutshell, pretty much.
I love it. As you were telling your story, I don't know why. This is just like a recurring theme. The people that I've been talking to lately, most people get their start in photography. Like I think about like, Jasmine Star, Jenna Kutcher, and I was just on a retreat in Portugal with the Flowdesk team and like a bunch of their top partners. And I would say probably like 50% of them also got their start in like I don't know what it is about photography, but it just breeds people into entrepreneurship. Anyways, it just made me think of that. And I wouldn't say that for me, photography is like what got me into entrepreneurship. But I would also, in high school, I dabbled with photography and I worked as a dance coach and I used all that money to buy my very first camera. Anyways, I just think that it's so funny that I don't know, maybe it's like the creativity. What do you think? Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's interesting because like I always say like I'm the unofficial spokesperson for Flowdesk because I love them so much. But I knew that there had a background in it. And it's interesting because one part of my journey I didn't share is I got certified as a life coach too. And this was at like 2018. And it was more for my nonprofit, but I did that. And I remember going to my first like conference for the life coach school is what it was. And I remember like looking at the presentations and being like, oh my gosh, these are like compared to a photography conference. I'm like, man, this is not even, you can't even compare the two because I think it was like aesthetically and graphic design. That's what we do. It's so visual. Yeah. And I think that having those are like graphic design and like photography are two skills that I think are just huge in being an entrepreneur because we're on social media. Everything is so visually appealing and it can tell a story and create emotion. And so I think it is weird that you do notice like a lot of people start in photography, maybe because it's convenient, maybe because we all take pictures. I don't know, but it is a lot of the really successful people, they started in photography. So yeah, I have noticed that trend too.
No, I love that. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about funnels. So can you explain for someone who is unfamiliar with the concept of funnels, especially automated funnels, what is a funnel and why is it important for business owners, specifically those who are looking to scale their business?
I think funnels is something that's so often overlooked in businesses. And I think it's funny because it's hard to make it sexy. And even as the marketing part for me, I'm like, funnels just don't sound sexy. They aren't like, there's not that instant gratification, all those things.
Yeah.
But a lot of, if you don't have funnels in your business, it is really hard to scale. I don't want to say impossible because nothing's impossible, but it's really hard to scale. Basically, a funnel or an automated funnel it's like you imagine a funnel visually. It's like open, it's really like broad at the top and narrow at the bottom. And a funnel is getting anybody in your network. And our funnel is really huge because as a business owner, you have networking, in-person networking, you have social media, you have your website, you have just all these things. And it's really like your first contact. The objective is to get them on your email list. Or it doesn't even now, because you can do different funnels, say like with mini chats or there's different types of funnels. But ultimately, and you'll hear me on my soapbox, the best funnel to get them in is your email marketing funnel because it's the one thing that you own is your email list. Social media can be gone tomorrow. Email is like where it is at. It's almost crucial to not have an email list. And we want to get them in the funnels. It's really like the journey to getting like a fan to a client or a follower to a client. And it's that sales journey. And sometimes your funnels can go on and on forever. Sometimes they can be quick. It can be a quick sell. It can be a tripwire. It can be a bunch of different things, but it's basically that journey from first contact to having them become like a loyal client or customer.
I love that. What are the key components of a funnel? Like when you think of a funnel and you're like, okay, a successful funnel has these specific things. What are those specific things?
If we're talking like email funnel, it's getting the email and they're getting their email in. And usually a lot of times this is in exchange for something that they really want. The days of subscribe to my newsletter list are almost non-existent. People rarely will just sign up. Right. Yeah. And so it's, what are you going to trade them in exchange for their email? And so that's the first part of the funnel is getting their email. And every product or service is going to look different. So it's not like cookie cutter. You can't just like one size fits all, but it's about building that like know and trust factor and before you sell. So typically just a generic funnel would be the delivery of whatever you're offering them, the free product, a guide, coupon code, training, whatever it may be. And then I like to do the next step in a funnel is your about me. Okay, taking back one step. Because of the spam filters, you want your emails to land in their inbox. I like to follow up after the delivery of the freebie is just an email. Hey, did you get this? Did you get my freebie? And I have found that to be really effective because people will hit reply, and then it tells, like the spam filters, it tells the email that you're legit. So that's my second one. The third one is about me. And I'm really big into market research and I love to see how other people are doing it. But think of if you've ever subscribed to or gotten a freebie for something, and then you get an email from somebody and you're like, who is this? Like you don't remember.
That
And
literally was me this morning in my inbox. I was like,
did I subscribe to this?
yeah, how? I don't even know how I'm getting this email. And then I'll like scroll through and I'm like, oh wait, I think I did subscribe to this email. But yeah, that totally happened to me this morning.
Yeah. And there's a really good book, and I forgot the name of it, but it's a thing on memory, and it talks about how visual is so important. So I always say that first about me, to include a picture of yourself. Yeah. So there's this study, and it's called the Baker study. And it says that people are more likely to remember what you do than your name. And so if I were to say, hey, I'm a baker, you would visualize pastries, maybe a chef's hat, an apron. Yeah. You visualize that. And so you really want it's important to touch on all the different, what are they called? Senses, but visual is really important. And it's back to the photography thing too, but you're going to remember, you're going to associate. So I think it's really important to include visuals, a picture of you. I try to, in a lot of my emails, put in either a header of myself or something, because I want them to connect with me like memory, because that's what marketing is, becoming memorable. And we're very visual. We're visual as a society. So that is the next email. Another, again, building the know, like, and trust factor. I think it's really important to find people where they're at. We all know create your ideal like avatar, what you want, but we're on there's so many platforms, there's so many places where we can be. And so it's introducing people to different places to get to know you. So then that next email, this is the know and trust, is, hey, my call to action can be like, follow me on Instagram. This is where I spend most of my time. But I also think it's important not everybody is on Instagram. Maybe some people are on Facebook. So I think it's important to mention your call to action as you're building that relationship. Can say, hey, join my Facebook group, or hey, follow me on Instagram, or whatever platform you're using. Here's my podcast. Subscribe to my podcast. So I think that's really important to include in the funnel, because we all consume content in different ways and everybody's different. And so I'm a big believer in repurposing your content. If you're going to create content, blast it out to all the places.
Yes.
But as far as time goes, that doesn't mean you need to be on every single platform. Having a repurposing strategy, because people consume content in different ways. Yeah. I think that funnel you're going to build that know and trust factor, and you want to make sure that you are connecting with them in different places. Then the process of the funnel is value, serve. What can you give them to build that know and trust factor? Meanwhile, you're showing empathy, but you're positioning yourself as an expert. This is where you're building that, hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to teach you things. I'm going to give you things so that you trust me. So then when they're ready to purchase, they know, hey, they've helped me, or this resource has been so great. I believe in them. I believe that they can help me for the next step. So that's like my strategy as far as content. So it's the delivery, the about me, and then it's value before you ask for the sell. And sometimes your value can go on and on for 3-6 months, depending on what your offer is. But then you have to sell. And that's where a lot of entrepreneurs really struggle, is they're not making offers. They're not selling, and you have to sell. That's why we're doing this business, is we're trying to make money.
Can I take it back to the very beginning? I'm very curious to know what your thoughts are on freebies, in the sense of, what do you find is working really well for the type of freebie in like PDF, quiz, webinar, challenge? And I'm sure it depends on each industry, but just generally, what are you seeing work really well for freebies?
I think this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs like get stuck on is they create a freebie, they stick it on their website, and then crickets, and then nothing. And marketing is testing,
Yeah.
and you have to test. So I call this, if it's not working, there's a leak in your funnel, and you have to figure out. So like
Yeah.
I have several lead magnets, and I'm constantly creating new ones depending on like my offers. But you have to test and see what works. I'm currently working on a quiz, and quizzes convert really well. In some niches, they convert really well. So I think that's where we kind of struggle is we see the way one person's doing it, somebody that we admire, and we think I have to do it that way.
Yeah.
And I talk about this with social media because people get so hung up on this is how so-and-so is doing it on social media. But
Yeah.
like one person can have a lot of charisma on social media, and another person, you're like, okay, I have secondhand embarrassment for them. Like they're so awkward. It
Yeah.
doesn't always work. And so it's a constant testing. I'll tell you some of mine that work really is I have probably my best converting are templates, Canva templates. They convert really well as far as getting people's emails. So I think free
Mhm.
converts really well. Free templates, something that they can use. And it just depends. I have, like I said, I have a library of freebies, and there's been freebies that I've created. I put a ton of time in, and it's been like, wah, wah. Nothing's come of it. And I'm like, are you kidding? This was so good. This is so good.
Yeah.
And then there's been others that I've thrown out there that I'm like, it's fine. And they totally convert. So I
Yeah.
think it's like testing, but I would say like free set, like either like swipe files or like templates. I think that they do really well. Challenges do well, and quizzes do well. I have guides. I think it's more finding if you're talking to your right audience and you find the need,
Yeah.
something that they need. I think that's what converts, but you have to test it and you have to try. Everybody's audience is different. My
Yeah.
audience is different than yours and is different than my clients. And you have to find what works.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm a sucker for coupon codes. You give me Bath and Body Works like 20% off, sign me up. I might unsubscribe, but sign me up.
Yes.
But I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I teach when it comes to freebies, like test out at least 4 different types of freebies because different like formats have performed well for me. And then also too, for my highest converting freebie is prompts. So selling on story prompts, it is converted like it outperformed all of my other freebies times like 1,000. Like it converts so well for me. And I also too have had freebies where I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna rock. And then 5 people sign up and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
wait,
Yeah.
what? Do
Yeah.
you do anything with those freebies that don't perform well? Because I think that that's something for people where they're like, well, if I create this and I spend all this time and energy and then it doesn't, perform, do you repurpose those anyway? Do you add them as bonuses to offer? Do you use them in any other way?
Yeah, I mean, I have a business membership, and a lot of resources a lot of freebies are like resources that I have used in my business. So I do repurpose them. One of the things though that I think that is something that's really overlooked is we have an issue that I see a lot is their messaging. This is where I
Mm,
feel like so many entrepreneurs struggle is messaging. I'll look at people's like profile or their freebies, and I have no idea what they're doing or what they
yeah.
offer. And so I think messaging is really a big part of it. And when I'm working with clients on their funnels and we look at like the offer, what it is, like the hook, the story, whatever,
Yeah.
I am like, okay, let's tweak this. I'll give you an example. I had a client who she's a life coach she's an empty nest life coach, a seasons coach. And she wanted to do this. It was like a training on adult children. And we tested, and it's funny because I knew which one was going to do better, but we tested her lead magnet page. And the first one was how to accept your adult children. So that was one of them. And the content was all the same, but I said, let's tweak this a little bit. Let's niche down a little bit. And so the one that we A/B compared it to was how to accept your children who have left their faith or left the church
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And I knew the church one. I knew that was going to be the one that was going to convert better. And so we tested it and I said, okay, let's test it. Because I think in our head, it's like people really struggle with niching down.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, but I'll leave out all these other people that are trying to accept their kids. But I said, yeah, but you're speaking to this specific person. So we tested those, and the leaving the faith one performed way better. So I think it's, don't just create something and then give it time. Like you put it out there and it doesn't convert.
Yeah.
You got to keep testing it, and don't just put it on your website. Have a strategy. Like part of my marketing strategy is I'm talking about my freebies every single week.
Yeah.
And it's part of my SOPs. I have a VA, and part of her SOP is convert. This is the freebie. I want you to convert this to not convert to. This is the freebie I want you to promote this month, and put it in all the places weekly.
Yeah.
And so you have to talk about stuff and test stuff and see what works. Like I said, if I have a freebie, I'm probably already using it in my business somewhere, or my clients are using it.
Yeah.
But you have to test it. You have to tweak it. Don't just give up. Don't put effort into it and be like, oh, it doesn't work. You have to change things.
I love that. And I've seen that even for my paid offers too, where I actually just got this question the other day inside my Instagram stories. I posted a question box and someone was like, my offer is not selling well. Do I scrap it? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things that we can look at before. I have one question for you. You said that client, you tested the 2 different hooks. Where did you test that? Was she posting it like on Instagram stories? Was she running paid advertising traffic to it? Like where was that being tested?
This specific one was Facebook ads. So and I think I always say test it organically to see what works. But sometimes people don't have the traffic. And that's the part of funnels that really, and I say this all the time, you can create these amazing funnels. You have to have traffic, and you have to constantly be working on driving traffic to it. Facebook ads are the quick way to do it, the catalyst to see what's working and what's not, because you're getting traffic and you can target people. So this one was on Facebook ads.
I love that. Okay, moving past the freebies, there's so much. I know we could probably spend the rest of the time just talking about that alone, but I want to talk a little bit more about the funnel past the freebie. So you talked about nurturing, and I know that this depends, but what would you say generally in terms of the amount of emails to send out before you start selling in a funnel?
I would say a minimum of probably 6 or 7 is my rule of thumb. Again, it depends on what you're selling. If it's like a tripwire, if it's like a smaller product, obviously there's not a lot of resistance when you're spending like $7 or $27. But I think it depends. But I think at the very minimum, 6 or 7, and it's them getting to know you and trusting you before they purchase. Unless you find that person that's looking exactly for what you have and there's no competition, it takes a little while to warm them up.
So you're saying the lower the cost of the offer, the less emails that you would need, but the higher the cost of the offer, you would want more nurturing there.
Yeah.
And then once you're actually into the selling process, is that same concept applicable there too, where it's like when you're sending out those sales emails and you're selling, is it less emails if it's lower cost and more emails if it's higher cost? Or what does that look like in terms of the amount of sales emails in that funnel?
Yeah, I think it's different. If I'm launching, I am like, they're getting a lot of like sales emails from me. But just like in general, if it's just like I have a funnel that for one of my programs that's just evergreen, I'm not like super promoting it. It's just out there. Yeah, I will sell in a couple emails. And then what I do is I will add them just to my main list. That's the end part of the funnel. And then they get in there. I can always retarget them, but that's typically how I do it. If I'm launching, I know they're interested in it because they signed up for a webinar or whatever. And I do send a lot of emails during a launch. But day to day, my evergreen, it's a few, and then I add them to my main list.
What do you find works really well for those evergreen funnels when it comes to the sales emails, in the sense of, are you offering discounts? Are you offering like an exclusive offer that you don't sell anywhere else? Like how are you creating that urgency to get people to want to purchase inside of that sales email funnel?
Yeah, I think a sense of urgency is, hey, here's a one time offer, limited time offer. I've done that before, and it's been effective. Where it's like, hey, this only email. This is the only time you're going to offer. I'm offering this, and then it's done. So
Yeah.
I do believe in a sense of urgency, but I also think trends are constantly changing, and people catch on to that stuff. I do when people. I'm like, I'm not going to buy. I'm not an impulse buyer. That's not my personality, but I think people catch on to a limited time offer, whatever. When I'm launching, I love the little like timers, and I love Flowdesk just added that feature not too long ago where you can add those timers. But I think I do think that a sense of urgency, it can be really effective when you're selling, hey, this is cart open, cart closed. I think there's pros and cons to it all.
Yeah.
Evergreen, I think, is a little bit harder to sell than launches.
Yeah.
And I think to be really effective with the evergreen, you have to put out money on ads if you really want to have effective evergreen, because I think it's a little bit harder to get a ton of traffic that way.
Yeah, no, I would agree as well. In terms of my evergreen funnel, I have four different ones, but one of them that has been actually working really well for me recently, which is funny that you're talking about the importance of driving traffic. I was like, this funnel is not converting really well. And I actually had my email marketer, she's amazing, go in and like update it and everything, because I was like, this is not converting well,
Yeah.
which this is totally on my end, but I was like not driving hardly any traffic over there. And recently I promoted it through one of my reels and I drove a lot of traffic. And like just within the last like week and a half, I've been getting a lot of sales to this offer that I haven't talked about at all anywhere on like my Instagram stories, but it was because 2 or 3 weeks ago, I drove traffic to this funnel and now they're getting the sales emails. And I'm like, I just got another sale notification just before I hopped on this podcast episode. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's actually converting. And it was just because I hadn't been driving enough traffic to it to really get the data to be able to know whether or not it was
Yeah.
converting. But inside of that funnel, I actually offer the course at a discounted price point, because I have found that otherwise people are just like, oh, I can just buy that at any time.
Right.
That
Yeah.
is something you definitely have to play around with in those evergreen funnels for sure, because
Yeah.
you just don't have that same sense of urgency when
Yeah.
you're launching something.
Yeah. And I feel like nobody like loves launching. I like it. I don't love it. But
Yeah.
there is something to be said when you are putting all of your energy into driving that traffic and the hype.
Yeah.
That you're gonna have bigger months with more revenue because you're all in, and you're talking about it nonstop. Even I have some offers that are always like my membership, for example. People can join my membership whenever they want, but
Yeah.
I still do a launch. I still hype it up. I still offer a discount during launches because that's where I have success, because I'm getting people excited. I'm talking, I'm teaching them something. So I still do launches even though they can join whenever they want. I just find it more effective in my business.
Yeah, I've talked about this. I don't know about on the podcast, but somewhere in the abyss of all the things that I've put out somewhere, I love Sam Vanderwell, and she's a lawyer, and she has an offer that's called the Ultimate Bundle. And it's like her main thing, but she does 2, maybe 3 promo periods a year. Same thing where it's like you can join her course at any time, but she has these active promotions where it's like full energy and everything's being poured into driving as much traffic as possible during this time period when it's a little bit discounted. Yeah, if you have those evergreen offers, I think that's a great way to still implement that urgency period without you having to go out and create an entire other offer that you need to be launching.
Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
I want to talk about, you shared when we were talking about the freebies with the marketing, and the marketing just wasn't working for this person and you tweaked it and then it started converting. What are some other common mistakes that you see small business owners make when it comes to setting up their funnels, and how can they avoid those mistakes?
Okay, so a mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make, and I think it's more just feeling intimidated by like technology. I'm a numbers girl. I'm very analytic, but it's not understanding analytics, not taking the time to learn analytics. So we'll talk about Flowdesk because we're both Flowdesk, but they have great analytics, and you can go in and look at your funnels and it will tell you like your open rates, your click-through rates. It
Yep.
tells you all of these things. And so, you need to look at the analytics. For example, like an open rate is highly dependent on your subject line, right? So if I'm looking at a funnel and I see, okay, my open rate is really low on this email, chances are I need to play around with the subject line. I need to find a more compelling subject line. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing with your call to action. If you have a poor click through rate or a high unsubscribe rate, then don't just throw it out the window. You need
Yeah.
to tweak that. So understanding your analytics, like how do you know, like we talked about the traffic, people, you can't test if you don't have traffic. So
Yeah.
I can help. And that's where it's tricky with helping people with funnels, because I can build you and help you build an awesome funnel. You have to have traffic. You have to market. You have to push people there. And there's just so many moving parts in a success of a business. But understanding analytics, how do you understand? I see this so many times with so many things. People don't understand what's going on. And I call it like there's a leak in your funnel. And
Yeah.
it's understanding those analytics, understanding how to read things. I'm a big believer in you don't have to be an expert at everything in your business, but know enough to know what is working and what's not. You see this all the time. Like I've had clients that are like, oh, I'm paying this person to help me run Facebook ads. I log into the Facebook ads and I know enough to understand the analytics. I'm
Yeah.
like, these are not working. This person clearly does not know what they're doing. And so I think it's understanding what's working and what's not, looking and understanding your analytics and not just giving up because it's not working. You have
Yeah.
to understand. So
I
that's
love
what
that. You keep saying leak in your funnel, and I love that term. What would you say are like the biggest leaks that you often see when it comes to people's funnels? Is it usually there's a disconnect between their marketing and their freebie? Is it a disconnect between their, maybe people are clicking on the link in the email, but they're not actually buying because the sales page copy? Like, where would you say is most common when there are leaks?
100% messaging is just not being able to speak to your audience and know what your audience wants and needs. That's market research. You have to really understand what your audience needs. I think messaging is so complex and complicated for people. And
Yeah.
a lot of times I'm seeing people they're using like the thesaurus to come up with like their messaging, or chat GPT, and you're not speaking to your audience. What is your audience Googling? Like we try to use these big eloquent words, and we think we need to have this like such profound statements, when it's like people are Googling, how do I lose 5 pounds? Like
Yeah.
it's that easy, is just getting your messaging, finding a need, talking to your audience and solving those problems. So it's messaging is the biggest thing that I see, is not clear messaging.
Where would you, for someone who's okay, messaging, I obviously need to work on messaging. Where do you even go to like work on messaging? How do you put that into practice? Does that come back to that testing concept that you were saying, where it was like, hey, there's this hook and then test this hook? Or what would you say for someone who's, hey, I want to learn more, I want to get better at it, but I don't even know where to start?
Yeah. I think there's tons. I'm a big like self-help junkie. Like I love like brand story. I love like all those different books to learn how to do it. But I think it's really, we need to talk. A lot of times our avatar is the younger version of ourselves. And
Mm,
because we get in our head where we think, oh, people already know this, but we're speaking to ourselves. And we have to learn to speak to, here is your avatar, and remembering that your avatar is at different places in their journey.
yeah.
And so, are you speaking to different people in their journey? So, you can have somebody who wants to learn Instagram, and you might have an avatar, but you can have an avatar that doesn't even know how to post on their story. You can have an avatar that wants growth. You can want an avatar who wants to convert more people. Like we're different places in our journey. They can be the same person, the same avatar, but just at different places in their journey. And so I think it's really important to try, when you really understand your avatar or your ideal client, you understand how they speak. Do your market research. What are the questions what are people really struggling with? One of the emails that I do, and a really good book, is Jeff Walker's Launch. I always tell people, have you read that one?
I
Launch?
haven't.
Okay, it's super good. But he has this like strategy where, and you've talked about this on one of your podcasts before, but he has this strategy where he sends out a questionnaire to his audience,
Mhm.
and they answer the questionnaire, And then they feel like they are a part of, then the psychological part is they feel like they're a part of the program. They feel like they have helped create the program. So I love this strategy, and it's such great market research. And I do this often where I will send out an email and it's like, the title is I have a favor. And people love to help other people. And I will say, I have 2 questions for you. And I send them like a type form, like a form, and just say, what are things that you're struggling with? So for example, I have a course called Email Funnel Builders. I will send a questionnaire when I'm getting ready to launch, and I do it like a month and a half ahead of time. But what questions do you have about funnels? And I love it because then I get so much like market research back. And there are things that I would never even think of including in my course or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's like really understanding what your people, what are they really struggling with? And I tell my clients all the time, this is a great strategy twice a year. Even if you don't launch, maybe if you have just one offer, you're just coaching or whatever, but send it out twice a year and say, what are you struggling with? And I think that part is missing, is like really doing your market research. And what are the struggles? And is there a need for that? Is it something that nobody has ever done? One of the things you did, I was actually talking about you in my membership the other day, is
Goodness.
I bought your course on the many chats. What is it called? The course?
Oh, Autopilot Empire.
Autopilot Empire. It was, mini chats is like a newer thing and it's a trend, and you jumped right on that. And I was like, yeah, I use it, but I don't really understand it. And I bought it. Because it was like, you saw a need you're the only one that I've seen with that course, and really being in tune with trends and jumping on them. I
Yeah.
did this with Clubhouse. When Clubhouse came out, I
Mhm.
did a training on how to use Clubhouse. I didn't even know how to use Clubhouse. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to force myself to learn.
Yeah.
So I think it's like really understanding the trends, the needs, and don't come up with something that has been done a million times before. And
Yeah.
if you come up with something unique about it, like really finding that need, because there's a ton of programs and offers for everything, but finding that need. So I think that is, it's really like instrumental in your business, is being able to pivot and watching what's going on and jump on opportunities.
I love that. And I love something that you said where in that forum people were submitting like questions that you didn't even think about, or things that, that you didn't even think to add to your offer. And it makes me think about at the very beginning of my journey, I did a bunch of one-on-one coaching before I ever started with a course or anything. And people ask me all the time, they're like, oh, if you could go back, would you still start out with one-on-one coaching or would you start with a course? And hands down, I would do one-on-one coaching because of all the things that I learned. And when I was on those calls, yes, there were things that were repetitive. And that's when I was like, okay, there's things that are repetitive here. Let me put this into a course. But also the way that people phrase their questions made me think about concepts in different ways, or they would ask different questions that I didn't even think about. And I was like taking notes of all these different things. And I put that into my course, and people ask me all the time, they're like, how was that course so successful? And I was like, because I literally was just paying attention to what everyone said. And I wrote down, and I was recording these sessions and like watching these sessions back and listening to the exact language that they used. And I use that on my sales page. I use that to build out the entire content. And so am I saying you need to do a bajillion one-on-one coaching sessions? No, I'm not. It depends on where you're at in your business. I think if you're at the beginning stages, I do think that it's helpful. But if you're farther into your business, those forums can give you a similar effect to what the one-on-one coaching did for me. So I loved that you said that. I would love to know, because you've talked a lot about funnels and the importance of driving traffic into these funnels. What are the most effective strategies that you have found for driving like high quality traffic to your funnels? Because I think that there's traffic and then there's high quality traffic.
Mm-hmm. I think it's, you want to grow your list, you want to grow your social media following, but it's people that you want, that want what you are offering. And that's why I always say, don't buy followers, don't get other people's lists, because it's a waste of time. You want to make sure that you are getting the people that you like, your ideal clients that you want to work with. I also think too, like a strategy of driving traffic is, I think by default, we all go to social media. I think entrepreneurs, it's because everybody's there. It's easy. There's different ways to drive traffic. And I think that's the default where people go. but then you're just creating content with no strategy.
Yeah.
And so one of the things like that I like, it's been a mindset shift for me the last like little bit, but I need to be driving people to my funnels every single time I put a piece of content out there. So if I'm going to write a blog, there needs to be a call to action and it needs to go to my funnels. I think people work the other way where they get traffic and then they try to sell, but think of the end result. What is it that you're trying to accomplish and work backwards? So
Mhm.
I've been pushing I have a free guide for building funnels. So I'm thinking, my mind is, I need to create content that gets them to comment the word funnel so that they get on my email list. So I'm creating my social media posts, anything that I am putting out. That's the call to action, is I'm trying to get them in my funnels. And I have a funnel that is like my podcast. Like, I'm an Amazon influencer or whatever, you get the paid for it. Like, I
Yeah.
have created, like, here's all the products that I use to create my podcast. And so I will do a post about podcasting and I'll say comment podcast, because I want them in that funnel, because that's where I'm making money. Different funnels. I have one for local. I do like an entrepreneur meetup. I want to have a local following too. I want to segment, and hey, here's my local following. I do stuff often in business with photography. I have a photography funnel where I want them in that segment. I want to funnel them to be segmented in that funnel. So work backwards. Where do you want them to go, and create content that drives them there? And I think that people are just creating content because they think, I have to create content. But think of it the other way, is how can I get people, like, work backwards? What's the end result that I want? And build up your strategy, your marketing strategy backwards to get them there.
I love that. Start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Most people start with the start.
Yeah.
Start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, you talked about Flowdesk in terms of tools for funnels. Are there any other tools that you recommend for funnel build outs for anyone who's listening?
I think, as far as funnels, and if we're talking traffic, I think don't put all your eggs in one carton. We have social media, which is great for driving traffic, but don't just think that there's only one way to build an audience, because people are Googling every single day. We still, and I think that's what's tricky is, anything, I always say, pick two platforms to get really good at. One is a social platform and another is a searchable platform. And we're talking like your website, YouTube, Pinterest, those are
Yeah.
searchable platforms. And so I think drive traffic in different ways. Learn how to do SEO.
Yeah.
Learn how to do different things. Don't just be solely dependent on social media, because it might not work for you. But there's other places. Don't just like think of other ways to drive. As far as like automations, I'm like obsessed with automations. It's my love language. There's lots of different automation tools that you can use to build out funnels. The other thing, and this is what I'm talking about at your conference, is build the client experience.
Yeah.
You have your pre-sale funnel, but you also have a post-sale funnel, and that's the client experience. And that is such a powerful tool, is word of mouth marketing and creating a really great client experience. And so using different tools in your business to create that post sell funnel, it is really powerful too. I always say you just need one person with a loud voice, just one person that will tell everybody about your products. And it's a really powerful marketing tool. Flowdesk is my main one that I use for the automating the actual funnel part of it. But there's lots of different great tools for traffic and to drive business that way too.
I love that you use Flowdesk too, because oftentimes when people talk about funnels, they're like, I have this and this, and then I'm like adding them up, and I'm like, that's like literally $200 worth
Oh,
of
yeah.
like your tech stack just for your funnel. I'm like, I'm not about that. And Flowdesk being like a very affordable platform, and your cost doesn't scale up the more that you grow your email list. I'm all about Flowdesk, but I love that you're about Flowdesk too.
Yeah. I think too, just remembering, like, a lot of entrepreneurs, they have such a high overhead,
Yeah.
and you can do so much with just like with minimal. And I even did I've even done, I've had I use Kajabi. I think you use Kajabi too, don't you? And I love Kajabi, but I have had clients where they're like, oh, should I get Kajabi? And I'm like, you're not to the point in your business where I personally would not invest. It's a big investment. I wouldn't invest in that. And I've even used Flowdesk. I'm going to teach. I did it like almost like a study where I said, I'm going to create a product just using Flowdesk.
Yeah.
And I created a course where it was 30 days of emails and that's another funnel. It's an automated funnel. There's so many tools that you can use, but you don't need a million things to do. You don't need to have like pay for a program that just is landing pages. You don't need a program that shows you like the funnel. The funnel is very basic. It's you get them on your email list and then it's bam. And then you're just emailing. So it's really, I agree with you. I'm a big believer in not spending money when you don't have to as a business owner. But yeah.
A big phrase that I've been saying lately is that simple scales. And I love that that's the theme of what we've been talking about. In terms of themes, what trends do you see emerging in the world of business automation and funnel strategies as the year ends, but moving into 2025? Just things that people should be aware of.
I think what you said is simplify. Even with email and marketing, I try to trust myself and be intuitive and stuff, but I'll sign up I'm a big market researcher and I will sign up for somebody who's really big. And I'm like, oh, I want to see how they're doing it. And I signed up for somebody the other day, it was like a bigger coach. And I got bombarded with a million emails. And I'm not even kidding. I did not read one and I deleted all of them because I'm like, it's just too much. Yeah. And so I think it's important to market and to show up, but we are in this like world where we are like being inundated with like tons of stuff all the time. Yeah. And people get paralysis by analysis. They're just like, oh, this is too much. I'm done. So try to listen to your audience, understand their behaviors, understand analytics, see what people are doing and understand. So as far as trends, that's what I'm feeling. And it sounds like that's what you're feeling too, because you're like simplify. But I think it's understanding your audience. You have to market. You have to show up. You can't just send out one email or post one. We used to say you would have to introduce something 7 times before people remember it. I just totally slaughtered that. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and 7 to 10 exposures before.
7 to 10, yes, there you go.
Yeah.
And I was reading this thing the other day or listening to a podcast or something where we're saying now we're so overwhelmed with so much that it's like 40 times. Like you have to expose them 30 or 40 times before they purchase or before they decide to commit. And so we have to get over that mindset block of I'm bugging people, I'm too salesy. It's about being memorable and it's about showing up and building that little like a trust factor. So I think that's just a huge thing is like, you're not bugging people. Like you're sharing something you really believe in. So
I love that. That was actually something that came up when I was in Portugal. We were talking about the 7 to 10 exposures and how it's vastly increased. And for anyone who's listening, I totally did not fully understand the concept of the 7 to 10 exposure. It doesn't mean that you have to sell to them 7 to 10 times, but it's just like interactions with you. So it could be listening to a podcast episode. It could be opening your email. It could be looking at maybe something that you're selling on your Instagram story. Like it doesn't have to be selling. And obviously you still need to sell if you're going to get them into your offer, but that is just something if you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to sell 40 times before someone's going to buy it. It's just touch points. So it's interactions with your business.
Yeah. Well, and I go the 80-20 rule. It applies in so many areas of our life, but I always say give people 80% what they want and 20% what they need. And so the 80% can be connection. It can be like value. It can be whatever. And then the 20% is selling, but you have to give them what they need. If you don't do that 20%, you're not going to sell. You're not going to scale your business. You have to sell.
I love that. Yeah. The 80-20 rule. I mean, it's literally the best. Like everything in life. It applies to everything in life. I love it. Okay, my last question for you. If you could go back to day one of your journey and give yourself any one piece of advice, what would it be?
Okay, I know this one. So, I have a couple bits of advice is don't compare yourself. Comparison is the thief of joy. Don't compare your beginning to somebody else's middle and understand that it just takes time. And I think we're in this world where we want things to happen really quick and really fast. And Rome wasn't built in a day, and you can't build a business in a day. And so I think being patient with the process is so important to understand. I'll have clients hire me and I'll ask them, okay, what are you struggling with? What do you want? And they're like, I want my business to look like your business. And I say to them, it took me 15 years to build this business. So being patient and understanding, that would be the first one. The second one is learn how to fail and fail often. The more you fail, the more you succeed. And so understand that it's part of the process, and you're going to fail. There's a really good book. I haven't read it in a while, but it's called Go for the No. And it's a sales book, but it talks about that we're like, okay, when I get 2 sales, like I'm going to stop, or we stop once we have a win, but we should be going for more no's, because that's how we get more yeses. And that was such a good mindset shift for me, where I'm like, okay, I'm going to get 10 no's and then I'll get a yes. And it really like pushes you, and being able to fail and learn from it, I think is just so important. I think that just understanding that there's nothing wrong with you, that you're not doing anything wrong. You're just learning. It's just part of the process.
I think entrepreneurship is a lot of disconnecting yourself from what is happening. If someone says, no, it's not about you. If XYZ is this problem is happening, it's not about you. And I think for me, the more that I learn to disconnect myself, and I'm like, I see it as a business, and like even though like I am a personal brand, like it's the business and I need to do what's best for the business, and it's not personal. That has helped me so much. So I love that. I always say fail fast.
Yeah.
You have been a wealth of knowledge. I know that people want to connect with you more. Where can they find you?
So I'm mainly, Instagram is like my main platform. You can follow me at Brittni.Schroeder. I'm pretty much everywhere at Brittni Schroeder. I have a Facebook group. I have a podcast, Redefine Your Business podcast. But yeah, that's where I'm at, and BrittniSchroeder.com.
And what about any offers that you have? Anything exciting that you have up and coming?
Up and coming. You can grab my guide and I can get you the link of it's. If you are wanting to start working on your funnels and really like understanding funnels, I have a high converting sales funnel guide, and I can get you that link. But that's what I have. I do have a business membership. Again, you can check that out. It's on my website. So lots of things, lots of ways to help grow your business.
I love that. We'll make sure that the freebie is linked down in the show notes. But I appreciate you so much. I have loved this conversation. I know that everyone listening will love it as well. So thank you for sharing everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me.